beautiful people. It's Wednesday, so it's Wednesday Debbie. Hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing amazing. Hope you guys have been watching my videos and have been subscribing, learning, and sharing to many other people who need this information about mental health and how it affects us. So today I'm going to talk about trauma. Trauma and how to deal with it. Because we experience so much trauma in our lives, and we basically never know how to deal with it, and most of the time we okay, to my understanding, trauma is a natural emotional response to terrible events that happen in your life. When you experience loss, don't mind my nails. When you experience loss, when you experience any form of loss, anything that may alter how you feel, or any event that changes your the situation that you're in into a negative way, it causes some level of trauma. So most of the time trauma is held in the body. Because it's usually like trauma is held in the body, uh and then the trauma is registered in the body, causing tension, and the tension becomes chronic tension, which later on becomes chronic pain. And thus, most of the time, that's why you find people um feel sick when they're depressed. Because you see, trauma like depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, these are trauma responses. These are how our body decides to react. So like trauma affects a person mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so most of the time people are usually advised to exercise when they experience trauma, because like you're relieving the tension, and once you solve one, it's easier to solve the rest. So most of the time trauma manifests in us through low self-worth, low self-esteem. You find a person who's experienced a trauma, they find themselves not feeling worthy of good things happening to them, of being loved, of being cared for, you see. And when it happens, it usually like puts them in a position where like, are you sure this is for me, you see. And whenever they get into relationships, they become codependent in an unhealthy way, in that they depend on these people to kind of feed them emotionally. They usually have some level of or rather I would say people who have experienced trauma, they usually feel a little bit of shame, especially people who have experienced maybe sexual abuse, or people who have experienced bullying, you see. They tend to be ashamed because someone has come into their lives and minimized them, so they put themselves in that box of shame, you get. The next one would be they put their needs aside for other people. Such people, like they put themselves in a situation where, for example, someone comes tells you like, yo, I need your help. I need, like, let's say I need 500 bob, and since you care about this person, you'll put their needs first. You might help this person with this amount of money, knowing very well you'll remain with nothing, but because of trauma, and because you don't want to seem like the type of person who cannot help, because you don't want to seem like a bad person, because maybe past trauma has taught you that you need to do something when needed, you see. You'll find such a person will put, they'll be like, I can wait, this person needs my help. I mean, that's a good character, but when it becomes, I wouldn't say too much, when you do it out of the wrong reasons, then it's a trauma response. They usually crave external validation. So you find a person who's experienced trauma is the type of person who will need for other people to validate them. You find such a person has posted a picture of themselves, and then When they don't get the positive response, or when they don't get response at all, you find them like they'll I wouldn't say minimize themselves, but they'll feel bad about themselves because they didn't get a response, they didn't get validated, their feelings weren't validated, so they feel some type of way. They're not usually able to tolerate conflict. They're not usually able to handle conflict and confrontation. They don't. They avoid anything that can cause confrontation or conflict. Yeah. They're always fearing what will happen next. Yeah, they're usually afraid of the future. You see, they're not sure what's going to happen in the future, so they try to avoid anything that can prompt that feeling. Yeah. Um, they have difficulty setting boundaries for themselves. And you see, boundaries are usually so important in relationships and friendships, because once you've put up boundaries, it's easier for you to handle more situations in your life. Because when people in your life know that I shouldn't do this because this will cause this to happen, like that's the purpose of boundaries, to put people, I wouldn't say in their lines or in their lanes, but say, but technically that's the use of boundaries. And a person who has experienced trauma rarely has boundaries because they don't know how to put them up. The boundaries that they might have put up were destroyed. You get? Yeah. So I would like to talk about the ways to cope with trauma. I would say the first one would be emotional and physical release. That's technically just like exercise, doing push-ups or planks, going for a run, just moving your body. And you see, because they usually help in releasing the brain stress, the emotional and physical release. The exercises, you see, they usually help in like releasing the tension from the body, like I said earlier on. Because when you release the tension from the body, see, um we had said that when we experience trauma the body holds on to the trauma, and which causes tension, which causes chronic pain and also chronic mental mental issues, I would say. Yeah. So that would be for emotional physical release. I would say going to therapy, asking for help, and support. Technically, that's just going for therapy or counseling. Going to also another thing you do would go to trauma support groups. There are many different trauma support groups for different experiences. Yeah. If you feel like you would need medication, you would talk to your doctor, and also like to ask for support from friends and families, and your family members also. The next one would be relaxation skills. Technically it would just be using relaxation apps. Also another one would be practicing deep breaths. I usually have this one. It's usually you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, then let go for 5 seconds. That usually helps with anxiety, and if you do it like 3 times, it helps a lot. It really does. You would go for massages, take a nap. There are many different ways of relaxation skills. Yeah, by the name you know it. And then the next one would be shift your mind thoughts. It's so hard to shift your mind thoughts and mindsets. Like you need to understand that some of the things that you do are a trauma response, and some of the things that you do, some of the things that are done to you are just triggers. You see, you need to understand your triggers so that like you learn about your triggers. Then once you've known about your triggers, you can be able to handle them, you can be able to work on them. Yeah, another thing would be noticing a challenge or a negative thought. Once you've learned to notice the negative thoughts or the things that are challenging, it's easier to handle them. Yeah. Another thing would be mindful isolation and distraction. That one would fall under my most favorite skill, which would be creating outlets such as writing, art, or music. Yeah, if you feel like some type of way, like the trauma is catching up to you, you would write down whatever you feel, write down whatever you're thinking about, sing about it if you're a composer. Yeah, draw about it if you're an artist. Whichever way you feel like letting it out, do it. Yeah. You could do a puzzle, you could color, you could do word search, and just do something to release the thoughts. Another thing would be self-care, healthy habits. Technically that would just be like practicing self-care things, uh, drinking plenty of water, getting out and feeling nature. Yeah, avoiding drugs and alcohol. Yeah, that's a tough one, because you find people who have experienced trauma usually go to drugs and alcohol as their immediate, for most people it's really their immediate coping mechanism. Yeah, and getting good sleep. Sleeping patterns are usually destroyed during this whole experience, because your mind is running, you're overthinking, you're just everywhere. You get? Yeah. The grounding skills. The grounding skills are usually other than the mindful isolation. The grounding skills are usually my favorite technique of like coping with trauma and anxiety. The grounding skills can be used for the anxiety when you experience anxiety or panic. The first one would be look at it's usually look, feel, listen, smell, taste. The five senses are usually used during the grounding skills. The first one would be look. Name five things that you can see. I can see a bottle, I can see this charger, I can see this, that. Technically, it's like that. The second one would be feel. Name four things you can touch. I can touch my hair, I can touch my eyes, I can touch my nose, I can touch my feet. You see, yeah. The next one would be listen. Name three things that you can hear. I can hear a child screaming, I can hear my sister talking, I can hear the wind. Can someone hear the wind? I'm not sure about that. The next one would be smell. Name two things you can smell. I can smell my perfume. I can smell the food. Yeah. And then the next one would be taste. Name one thing you like to taste. You'd like to taste. I would like to taste shawarma right now, but oh well. Here we are. Yeah, technically those are the coping skills that I have for today, and I really appreciate you guys for watching till this far, and I hope everything that I've talked about in this video has been helpful and has been insightful for you to cope with the small traumas that you might experience. I'm not saying small to minimize your experience. I'm saying small because God is bigger than your issues, man. God is bigger than that trauma, so that's why I'm calling it small. um uh I hope you can be able to heal from whatever it is that is happening to you, because I know trauma can be tough. So I hope you can be able to heal. Um, yeah, check up on each other and just be there for each other. Call that friend of yours, because right now, hey, my friend, like our generation, things are really tough for us, and we are so used to ignoring how we feel and glorifying cutting people off instead of actually solving the issues that you have with people, and even if you let go of this person from your life and you've solved the issues that you guys had, it's easier to move on to the next relationship, the next friendship. So I usually say that people should talk about the issues that they have with people, so that people don't go wondering like, why is my friend not talking to me anymore, or something of the sort. Yeah, so check up on each other, spread the word about mental health, go for therapy if you can. And during my next session, I will do research about the places where people can get free therapy, because I believe there are places in Kenya where you can get free therapy. Yeah, free therapy and counseling. Otherwise, be kind, be nice, pray about everything, take it to God. God will help always, He never fails. So yeah, thank you and have an amazing one. Love you guys.